I'm Rory. And I'm Chris.
And I'm Corbin. I'm here for Soundsphere magazine doing a quick interview with the guys from Enter Shikari for their date in Manchester at New Century Hall. So firstly, just tell me just a little bit what it was like going into the recording process of this new album. Where was it tracked and everything like that? What was the whole process?
We started at Row's house, our singer's house, just in he's got a little studio area. And yeah, we did like a few months of just like, demoing ideas and trying bits out. We had about like 100 ideas at that point, and then we just like whittled them down slowly, and like ones just naturally got developed faster and further than others. Yeah. And then eventually we ended up renting an Airbnb down in Chichester.
Chichester, yeah, just outside.
Yeah, it was like this amazing little farmhouse, like literally in the middle of a farm, completely off the grid, so it's all like solar powered, and it had like big gas tank for the shower and stuff for the boiler.
Yeah, no central heating. We just like
central heating. Yeah, it's like a fire in the middle of the house. It was really like back to basics place. Yeah.
Is that a new environment for you that you've never been there before? Or?
I mean, it was the first time we'd ever, because normally what we've done before is we get to a point where we've done the demoing similar to what we did this time, and then we go, okay, right, let's go into a studio and properly.
Yeah.
And this time, we were just like, over the years we've generated a lot of equipment ourselves, and got better at producing, and Rao produced the last one, which we did do in the studio, and we just we knew people, so we just hooked in our friend George Perks, and he was willing to come and bring some of his equipment, and we just rented an Airbnb, and we decided we were going to make our own studio.
Fantastic.
And, so it was just fun.
Yeah.
It was like, just knowing that, studios get used a lot, but again and again by lots of different artists.
Yeah.
So to know that no one's ever going to get a drum sound like we got, because no one's really ever going to know that exact place and record in that drum bar again that we created, so it was a really experimental and fun.
Yeah, that's quite cool. So the whole thing was tracked in the Airbnb then?
Pretty much, and then finished off some vocals at Row's, back at Row's.
Oh, fantastic. So it was all either Row's house or this Airbnb.
It's really good. I like the kind of conceptual part of doing it all in a place that's completely solar powered and completely off the grid and everything like that.
It was completely. It's just completely DIY as well. I mean, we had. We brought an engineer in, just so he could sit there and track stuff and all that, so we could just focus on recording.
Awesome. Yeah. And then kind of going back in time from there a little bit, did you have any kind of writing sessions individually or anything like that, or was it all kind of at Row's house and then to the studio then, or was it different things? How do you kind of collaborate on ideas in a...
We did do a couple of retreats, didn't we? Like where we went one place in Norfolk. And then we did another Airbnb, just like, I think because after Nothing Is True, we had this big period of, we'd written this album and we couldn't tour it. So we weren't ready to move on to thinking about writing a new one. So there was a long period where we just weren't writing at all, because we were like, we've just done one, we need to let that one live.
Yeah.
We need to get out and play these songs. But then, eventually like a year and a half passed, and it was like, we need to start doing this. So to kind of get ourselves in the mindset, we just agreed to all go live in a house together for 2 weeks and just kind of see what came out, and that sparked some of the earliest ideas that we then worked on in Rouse.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, doing music myself with other people, especially in that kind of lockdown period, it kind of reinforced the habits of making something on your own and then sending it off to someone else, maybe even just online, put it on a Google Drive folder or something like that. But I guess if you're going away together and doing that when we could have done, and actually physically being in the same spot, it sparks that creativity a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I guess as well, you never know, because we've done it before where we've been at Rouse and it's quite regimented, okay, we'll arrive at 9:30 and then we've got to go home at 4:30 to pick up the kids or whatever. When you're in one place together, there's no limits on when you can be creative.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not.
You're not constantly clock watching or anything like that. Yeah. Speaking of Nothing Is True, in the sort of press release that came out about this, it brought up the question that you asked on Nothing Is True: is this a new beginning, or are we close to the end? Which I guess when it was being written and recorded and everything, maybe weren't aware of how pertinent that kind of question would be at the album's release, and the, I suppose, lack of tour cycle that you would have usually been able to do after it. How do you think that this new album follows on from that? Do you think it's related in any way, or is it sort of sparking new ideas?
I kind of feel like, I mean, this new album is quite a lot more positive. Like musically, like it feels quite positive.
Yeah.
I don't really know why. Maybe it's just because, you know, the rest of the world's sort of
feels like it needs a bit of injection of positivity.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when Nothing Is True came out, you know, like the cogs were turning, weren't they? And then COVID hit, and you know, we were like, should we release it? It's like, or are we better stopping everything and holding off until this blows over, you know? Yeah. And at the time we made the decision, it's like, you know what, this album is, there's so much in this album that is relatable, and we made that decision because of that, to go forward with it. And you know, I guess if we had held off, it would have been holding off a lot longer than we thought it would have been. So it was the right decision. But yeah, it was just kind of like, you know, this stuff that Rao's been saying in his lyrics for quite a while was all of a sudden very pertinent. And yeah, I guess with this one, like you say, we just felt like it was time to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
back to business.
How does it feel, sort of being back on the road, as it were, after the kind of long period of not doing that?
It's great. It's amazing how normal it feels again now.
Yeah.
Like, the first ones back were weird because there was still a lot of, you know, like testing on the doors.
Yeah.
For everyone finding their feet.
doing COVID tests every day. Like, you get in the venue and everyone will be like, "Have you done any tests yet?" And you'd be like, "Fuck," and you'd have to do the test. You'd be watching it going, if I've got COVID, then the tour's finished.
Yeah.
And just that every morning was just like, oh, it's horrible.
Kind of, giving yourself this anxiety every morning. Of like,
and then like, one tour we did, and then one person was positive, and it was like, shit. And then we had this big, like, everyone was arguing with this big debate, and then we ended up like pulling the tour, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So glad that it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine quite exciting, like the kind of getting back into that space after such a long time.
But yeah, after like, because me and Chris, we were just like stay-at-home dads for like 2 years, and then it was like, then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, well, I'm a band guy again.
Yeah,
sick.
How did you feel about that? Were you kind of not dreading it? That sounds a bit more intense than I wanted to sound. But were you kind of thinking, I kind of like this in an odd way?
What, like staying at home? Or staying at home or being away again?
Staying at home, really. Like sort of. Yeah.
I remember when I toured first, when our album release shows were the first shows to get cancelled. If I'm being honest, I was scared because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about just being at home all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, because going on tour is a bit like a drug almost. It's like, you know, it gives you this sort of gluttonous satisfaction of, like, you know, going on stage all the time, like living that life and partying and stuff. And I was scared about how I was going to feel about missing that. I was like, how am I going to feel about just being at home and like calm at home all the time?
Yeah.
So this is going to drive me crazy. But actually, after like a month, I was like, this is great. Actually, and actually, like, I really started to appreciate it. I don't know. It was the best thing that could have happened for my family as like a family unit. It brought us all a lot closer. Yeah. And then going back on tour again, it was definitely a period of, you know, growth for me personally, as a dad and as a musician.
I agree. I think it, you know, at the time, I think it was scary, especially once we realised that actually this wasn't going to be going away anytime soon. Yeah. What I found scary was the uncertainty of whether we were going to be able to, or be relevant when we were allowed to do it again. Yeah. You know, not being out there, not getting that justification from like an audience.
The validation.
That, you know, that it's still current and it means something to people. Yeah. Without feeling that, you just start wondering. It's like, well, is this it? Are we going to get to do that again? Yeah. But I agree with Rory that, you know, like, actually, now I look back on it, it probably came at a good time, and it was, you know, not sorry for us in our lives, just to be in order, because it meant we had to slow down a little bit. You know, like we'd done. That was our 6th album, and it was, you know, it was if we weren't playing shows, we were writing and recording, and so we didn't really ever have that much of a break. We just kept going on and on.
Yeah.
So this was this forced little break.
Yeah.
Probably did a fair bit for us as humans.
I was just thinking that, like, you do hear about artists kind of going on sabbatical and everything like that, and I guess kind of the situation kind of forced everyone to do that for a little bit, which I think
we've never been on sabbatical, so
it's good to take some time off and then get back all guns blazing, kind of really. Well, I'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much for talking to me.
Pleasure.
Have a great night tonight,
Thank you.
and I'll see you out there.